Hey Kyle, how are you today? We're back. We're finally live after all the fun that we've had this morning.
Excellent, excellent. Very, very excited for today's show, Chris.
Me too. It's worth the effort, I think, to produce these things. So, what do we have on tap today?
Well, on tap today was to dive deeper into why digitize your business, why digitize your life, why digitize the potential. Because we have the opportunity right now in this day and age to be able to make more impact, to be able to get further out into the world. But at the same time, we're all being forced with some very interesting choices right now to respond idea of needing to stay home, needing to shift the way we work, needing to shift the way we potentially even school our kids. So why digitize?
Yeah. So, I've been experiencing something pretty crazy these last little bit. I want to talk about that a little bit because a dear friend of mine, a colleague named Salim Ismail, he's the author of the book Exponential Organizations. He has this phrase he uses a lot. He says it's a forcing function, and I really have found this to be true lately because all of the things that are going on with with the coronavirus. I think just a few minutes ago, I mean, literally less than an hour ago, the World Health Organization declared coronavirus a global pandemic. I don't know if you saw that news, but that's a big
Yeah,
deal. And, one of the things that that's done is it's become kind of a forcing function for a lot of people to say, oh, wow. Well, let me give you a real life example right here. My child's school, they're sending out an email going, gosh, we think we need to do online learning because we may have to close the schools for a while. How do we do online learning? They don't know how to do it. I mean, they literally haven't the first clue. So we had that same thing happen over at EXO where we were attending lots and lots and lots of events, and all of a sudden there are no events anymore. What do you do? That's kind of a problem if that's how you make your living or if that's how you get your message out. What do you think?
absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that we've been finding, it's the same thing. My kids are actually getting incredibly excited because they're saying, "Oh, we have to like. There's a chance that we're gonna stay home." And there was a point I think last year when there was another when we had all the violent storms and fires and things like that, and they
That's
had to
right.
stay at home. I actually did my version of homeschooling, which was trying to manage my workload but also manage them, and we actually built a whole curriculum system that kept them in line with stuff. And I remember a few days in, they were like, "We don't want to go back to school. Can we just stay home?" So the very first thing they did when the teacher said we have to do this online learning, they were like, "What could we do to make this fun and interesting?" So they even problem solving. But for our business, we faced something interesting just in the last couple of weeks. A huge chunk of what we do is live and in-person sessions. I was scheduled to go around maybe 8 countries over the next 6 to 7 months. We had around anything between 15 to 17 engagements, which were a combination of workshops, keynotes, summits, programs, all live and in person. All of them, because of the size of the organization, they have to pause. It's not even that they can just push through. The law demands of that company, and the contracts for maintaining their employees' health demand that they don't travel, that they don't get groups of more than 100 together. So, a lot of things have had to postpone for us. And so what we've been doing in a fast track, and Kent, you and I are getting very busy with this right now, is just converting those same experiences to online. Now, lucky for you and I, Ken, we've been messing with this for a few years. We've been playing with these things. A lot of our business is completely remote based. For the last 3 years, it's been completely remote based. So,
Hmm.
any tools and tactics, which I'm sure in this program we're going to get deeper and deeper as our audiences actually start to respond and ask questions like, how do you do this? How do I still stay optimized? How do I still stay connected with my teams? We've been experimenting with this for some time, but I see this as now it's even magnified for us, the importance of being able to unlock your digital potential in order to have digitized as a theme or as a priority in your world, which is how do I still stay connected? How do I still drive impact? How do I still get my work done? How do I still inspire my kids? We now can do that because of the speed and power of tech, and thanks to 5G coming in and all those things. But we have to have a strategy about it. We have to have a vision about it. We have to be able to map, our old world to this new world, and we have to be able to take action on it. So, any thoughts around that, Kent?
Yeah, I mean, too many.
Yeah.
I think that, the funny thing that comes into my mind is actually not what, actually, this is kind of a weird thing. I was thinking about this, and how do we even, what's the knock-on effect? Okay, so let's just say that you and I, we can figure this out. We can go digital. We can run this type of a live show. We can run a live event. We can do all kinds of things that maybe isn't easy for other people to do. But what if what you do, what if your business is physical? Like you have to go into work, or you're the one that was taking care of the office that now nobody comes into for several months. Are those companies paying those employees during this? Is the government going to step up and step in? I don't think we know the answers to any of those questions. So I don't know if we need to dwell on all the negative stuff right here, right now, but I do think we have to acknowledge that it exists. And it could be that using these types of digital technologies for those of us that can do things is part of what's going to keep the rest of the machine running, is kind of what comes into my mind right now. So when I try to bridge that to what it means to your average business is kind of where I'm thinking about this. So what does it mean to your average business to go digital, to be digitized? That's kind of what's on my mind.
Yeah, there's something interesting that's showing up for me right now, and just building on what you're saying, Kent, is this piece that current businesses and the general business is that we leave our home, which is our sanctuary. It's our safe place. It's where our family is. It's actually where we take a break. For those entrepreneurs, of course, that sometimes working from home is the thing, or you do it a couple times a week. But for general, it's home. You get in your car, you take your public transport, you go to a centralized place, you walk into a building, and you're working with your team members and your employees, and you're inside of a culture. One of the biggest things that I think that we have to navigate and manage is the balance between home life and work life when those two collide. And I think many humans are going to be experiencing that for the first time. They've had the safety of being able to leave the front door, go to another physical location, which is work, and then come back to their home life, and that's home life. And then, of course, some blend. And then, of course, there are the young entrepreneurs and the more remote-based companies, which are saying, there's some strategies and tactics around that. But for the majority, I think one of the things that's going to be interesting is how do you also strike a balance with this digital world and figuring out the learning curve that's going to come with all of this, and at the same time managing your balance between home life and work life.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that, because just a few minutes ago when it was time for us to go live, I walked into the living room here at my house. My children are home right now. 2 out of 3 of them are home right now. And I said to my wife, I'm going to be live on the air in just a few minutes. Yeah. I need you guys to keep it down. She's like, oh, is the TV volume okay? And da-da-da. And then, of course, the 3-year-old, that means nothing to him. So he's just like running around like crazy. And, I mean, that's kind of weird in a way, right? So on my door over here to this office where I'm in my house, I have a sign that says on air, do not disturb. This is kind of a new it's not really new in my house. I've been doing some of these things for a while. You know that.
You have to be mindful of it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about what does it mean for them to like really try to be quiet for daddy for a few minutes, maybe to turn the TV down, maybe for my wife not to run some blender or machine or whatever that you would hear. So this place that you touched on, this thing like where the work and the home merge. If you're going to go home and work, it's going to merge. It's literally like a freight train, coming together. And I'll tell you what, even though I made the choice consciously to move my office home in 2015, I continue to experience these types of things. And even more so now that, over the last 1 to 2 years, I probably live stream 60 to 70% of my work week, one way or another. It could be as simple as a Zoom call or as complicated as a live YouTube show.
Yeah. Yeah, this, it's yeah, as you're reminiscing, it makes me think back to, I think there was something that happened in the larger gestalt when that gentleman on British television was presenting some really dramatic piece of information and his kid came in, right? I think that started to change the tone that we are human. I mean, even right now, right? We're on green screens, we are projecting in, we have this curated experience here, which is amazing, and it's going to be exciting as these shows continue to what we can do in the environments we can place ourselves in. But the reality is, we're in our offices doing our thing in a production studio. And this morning was interesting because I was speaking with a client who are out in the UK, and it's a larger Fortune company. We had their executives, and all of them are now mandated to stay home. A lot of them are mandated to not go in, just from a precautionary perspective. And same thing on the call. We're having a very serious, important conversation, and suddenly this little head pops up, next to one of the executives, and she's like trying to do her very best to just like be professional. But it was like, I think what I'm excited about is it's going to start a conversation about being human. It's going to start a conversation that we all have these complexities to manage, and I think what you said is that we have to start anticipating, how do we curate that experience? I think it's going to help us make better transitions from one part of our day to another. It's going to help us to probably time manage better. It's going to help us to be more thoughtful about the environments we step into, and that everyone around us is taken care of, or that our communication increases, right? Hey, honey, I'm about to go live. Can you just manage the environment? Hey, I better not produce on the day that the garden service or construction's happening.
That happened last week.
So I think what it's going to start promoting is a whole bunch of really important things if we look at it with a positive intent, right? We've got to look at it and say, like, I'm going to have to show up and communicate. I'm going to have to plan better. I'm going to have to be more thoughtful. I have better time management, better structure. And then, of course, how do you curate that right experience? So I'm personally excited about it. And I think there's going to be a massive learning curve that people have to take, which is why I'm also excited for us to continue just sharing, wisdom and insights.
So let's take it to something actionable. So we've been sharing a little bit about what's going on with us doing this type of work from home, really live broadcasting. You've seen my home office. It's basically a broadcast studio, kind of a messy one, but it is a broadcast studio nonetheless. And what is something that we could focus on kind of in this latter part of today's live broadcast that would be actionable for people? Like, what could they do next if they want to get digitized, right? They want to digitize their business. They want to digitize a part of their life, because this is a good opportunity, and we'll do a whole show on this probably soon enough, or even a series on the D's. Right. So digital is just one D. There's digital, demonetized, decentralized, dematerialized, and I always forget the other two. Democratized, and
decentralized is the seventh one.
I think I got something in there. But the point is that what we're talking about today is digital. So when you go digital, it has a really big impact on all these other sort of attributes. It has a knock-on effect that's huge, because let's just take this feed. Here's what I'll share, I think, and if you have another, we'll throw it in there too. So we'll take this live show, and afterwards we're going to run it through effectively a post-editing process. And we'll be, if there are any good nuggets in here that we think that we would like to be able to share in bite-sized chunks, we'll clip those up, we'll attach them to this season and episode, put them in a playlist, and share them on YouTube. It sounds pretty basic. All I'm doing is taking content we already made and I'm reusing it. And this is a lovely way to give a live show a long tail of content and provide a lot of value downstream. If there's something we said in here that's particularly useful. And there are many, many other versions of that. And we'll be talking about those, I think, as we go along. But the management of content is a critical piece, and then what you do with it. I don't know if you want to add to that, or even just share a totally different
Yeah, no,
downstream. Yeah.
I love what you just shared there, because that management of content is important. So if I was going to build on that, what I would do is probably take one step just a little bit before that. So, for us, one of the things that we had to manage, and I would highly recommend to those of you watching this, is that you have to start thinking about your storage capabilities. You have to start thinking about the processing power of your computer. You have to start thinking about the environment in which you are going to be. If you have to jump on more Zoom calls and webinars and video calls, like, what is the environment that you're in, so that when you are producing that content, or you need to transfer content from yourself to someone else, whether you are giving information, whether you are receiving information, whether you are problem solving, depending on the kind of meeting you're having, it requires you to think a little differently about, where before we could go into an office, we understand we got four walls and rooms and the doors closed and we have our stuff and people call in. But this is different. This is different. We actually have to anticipate a few more factors as to what we're doing, what the objective is, what the agenda is, so that when we do get to that content, like you and I, we have a long planning process. We've got a very rigorous process to
Yeah.
understand how everything works, so that when we do show up in this environment, because it's live and you kind of get one shot at it, and you got
Yeah.
to kind of make it work, and it's being captured at the same time. How do you make
Yeah.
sure that you are thoughtful and prepared as you walk into it? And that's one thing that I would absolutely think that we should click down on as well. But also, just as a tip to those that are needing to spend more time in this environment, just think about the planning process going into the content that you have to create, share, or develop.
Yeah, you reminded me of something I did on a program, a series of programs a while back. They're called Fast Tracks. We could have a whole show on Fast Tracks. They're basically digital transformation projects for civic contexts. So cities run them. We did them in Miami. We've done them in Medellin, Colombia. We've done them in Bogota. But a really, really critical thing, because they're almost 100% virtual. We did used to send people on the ground at two different points in the process. But right now, we wouldn't even be able to do that. I hadn't thought about it too much. But the one of the things that we did on the teams, so there are multiple teams competing for prizes to help solve a particular problem, typically sustainable development goal, SDG oriented, in a fast track process. On the teams, we encouraged a type of meeting. This is very specific. We called it the water cooler. Because when you're in an office environment, you just run into people. You'll be walking down the hall and you're like, oh, hey, Kyle, how are you? And you talk about your family, you talk about what happened in the parking lot. I mean, whatever it might be. Sometimes you have happy hour. So we would have water coolers and / happy hour. Because the funny thing is that when you're working with people on a 12-hour time zone offset, they might be having a beer while you're having a coffee. and so it's a strange thing. So you're still like, cheers, and we would all meet up at the water cooler. And this is where we would simulate this concept of a casual encounter, a casual social encounter at the water cooler, or in the kitchen, or the lunchroom. And it was crucial because we would actually even randomize those. I know that sounds weird, but we would put like loads of random water coolers and then a special Zoom room just for water coolers, and anybody could pop into any water cooler anytime that was running if they wanted to. And this was nice because it helped build rapport and friendship, and sometimes amazing ideas would come out of the water coolers. When you mix coffee and wine, that can happen.
Sounds like a crazy combination. I would say, I just sort of joined on one point, is that one of the tabs on my laptop that is pretty much open almost constantly is this time zone matching calendar, so it allows you to put 3 or
Yeah.
4 different time zones in, because the nature of our business now, that people aren't necessarily always coming to the same destination and coming to the same time zone. Some of our calls are managing South America, the US, Canada, Europe, and then a few different locations in Asia. And even in Europe itself, it's like, and sometimes India as well. So when you have this, to try find the perfect moment, which works for everybody, there's always somebody that draws a short straw. There's always someone that's like, I'll take one for the team. It's kind of a bonding moment, like you said. Like I sometimes have to do a 4 or 5 a.m. call, or I've got to do an 11 or
Yeah.
call. Then someone else is also picking up those when I actually get the midday call, based
I'll
on.
tell
So
you.
we have like who has the least amount to do on the call. You're gonna pull the short straw on the bad time zone. So it's such a funny cultural thing that's kind of happening
Yeah.
right now, and we even get to play with this, you know.
I have to share one more crazy one. I accepted a short-term consulting gig that I took over a marketplace for. It was called a disruption role. I won't get into all the details of that. But when I accepted it, I looked at the time zone and I saw CT, Central Time. That's like
Yeah.
about an hour off from me. But then when I got my email after already accepting and committing and everything, I was looking on my calendar. I was like, where is this thing? And then I scroll up and I find it at like 2 a.m. It was CET. And I just completely didn't see it. So I ended up in a 6-hour workshop from like midnight to 6 in the morning. Because you know what? When you make a commitment, you got to honor it. And that's more true than ever in this sort of digital space that we live in today, because people don't necessarily shake your hand, look you straight in the eye physically. So the commitment you make to the time to be somewhere is crucial, I think. And so
It's a very
that was a pretty funny one. But hey, we're coming up on time for this particular episode. We try to keep these between 20 and 25 minutes.
right.
Kyle, any last words you want to share as we wind down season 1, episode 2 of Digitized?
I mean, high five to us. This is exciting that we're getting this going, we're getting it rolling. I think there's going to be so much value that continues to come out of this. It's just something that you landed on. You landed on at the last point. It's something I'm certainly constantly working on for myself and learning in this environment, because we're not meeting each other face to face. There's actually, I've noticed a reduction in people's ability to stick to commitments in a digital world. We can just go like unaccept, cancel. You don't really have to, automated emails kind of cover for you. The one thing that I would say to anybody watching, and this is definitely something that I know you and I are really trying to work with on our teams and our own lives, and and I'm certainly working on it hard for myself as well, is better time management of digital interfaces, because there isn't a lot of transition time. You'll work your way right up to the last minute, and then like at 12 the thing ends and the other thing starts, and you got to get that buffer time. But with commitments, always remember to think ahead. And if you're going to be late, if you're going to be like, let somebody know, let them understand. If you can't make it, give them a reason, reschedule. Like, we still have to bring a human element into our communication and the energy. I still think energy comes through on communication. I really do. I think even if you're writing something and pushing send digitally, the intention in which you wrote it still can be received on the other side in some way. I'm a firm believer. So those commitments, like, I think we should all do a great job and continue to do a job and be mindful that in this world, we can kind of hide behind technology and this digital interface. I think what we should do is lean into stronger communication and better commitments. That would be one action for sure that I would love to part with.
That was fantastic. What a great way to wrap today's show. Awesome advice, Kyle. Thank you so much. Again, my partner in this show, my colleague, and really appreciate it. And I hope everybody out there enjoys the conversation. We'll be back same time. We'll try to hold that commitment. Same time next week. That's 10 a.m., roughly 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're still learning. We still got training wheels on for a live YouTube show, so we might even mess up every now and then, but we'll share those with you too, so you can see what it's really like to be on this journey to be digitized.